And there's no better way to celebrate than jumping straight in to this week's song submissions, because they've been great again.
Yeah,
so
totally.
Why do you want to hear our voices when we can play some great music? So
that's what we're
going
here
to do right now. And this first band is all the way from Melbourne, Australia. The Royce twins. They were actually on the X Factor Australia. They've got millions and millions of views on YouTube. So it's awesome for us to be working with people like this. And this is, I'll let them introduce their song to you now, the Royce twins.
Hi guys, we're the Royce twins and we're here to introduce you to our new track, Black Lace.
Never been a better man, like red sun on the desert sand. True love when it never dies, when it's so bad but it feels so right. Can't stop this desert storm. Black lace is your uniform. Hold tight and we'll go all night with you. I love the sheets tonight, cause you know we've been here before. The lines on your body, I can't ignore. So
Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. I could go,
That's sick.
I could drum to that all day. That is right up my street.
Yeah.
What did you think of the song, Andy?
That was class. Yeah. The minute I heard that when they sent it in, I was like, whoa, this is a meaty riff. Seriously, class song, like proper rock and roll vibes, really thick mix. And I love the guitar and the vocal, how they're kind of in this section that we've played in particular. There's this kind of question and answer. Yeah, it's a proper good song. And for me, the vocals are really well sat in the middle of the mix, and it's really tight. And the way that the guitars are crunching without absolutely flooding the mix. Mm-hmm. It's always a difficult one when I'm mixing electric guitars. It's trying to get that balance where they're really kind of chunky, a lot of distortion, but they're not absolutely just taking over the full scene.
Take the mud out, yeah.
Totally. So they've gone really well in doing the whole classic hard pan, the guitar on the left and right, with the drums and the bass down the middle. That bass, you saw me kind of doing that there.
Oh, it's sick,
that
it really is.
So sick, because it's just like boom, boom. Just like it comes right through, because they've deliberately taken away some of the other instruments in that moment. And it just adds like such a real kind of cool vibe to it, you know what I mean? So yeah, absolutely loved that track.
Me too. It's interesting because I've known about the Royce twins since I lived in Australia for probably 5 years now. And
Cool.
This is so different to what they usually do. They're usually acoustic, love song. It's just like two twins, two guitars, a lot of fingerstyle guitar, and it's all like love songs and really, really calm. And this song, like they cranked it up, down-tuned the guitar into drop D, stuck it through God knows how many amps. But as you said, I just want to pick out that they've got rid of the mud from a distorted guitar really well, which is hard to do. To keep everything in there flowing and inside the mix is awesome. And what you didn't hear in verse 2, we'll link to the song again, where that bass comes in verse 2, they also add some like guitar chucks, like a rhythmic guitar chuck thing, which is awesome. I'd love to have seen that in verse 1 as well, but I do agree that the bass coming through there, it just adds that groove that just makes you move your head.
Yeah, totally.
And also, you touched upon the vocals, and to get vocals that sound that good, you have to get good vocal takes, which is easier said than done. And it's easy for a vocalist to say the producer will fix it. But what they've done here is if they've taken the time to get great takes. They've probably picked microphones that work with their voices well, because everything is really nicely sat in the mix. It's not too far forward, it's not too far back. It's sat perfectly there. It's a very good sounding recording. It's just a great rock and roll song.
Just a great tune. And it's interesting that you say, because you know them, that this is quite a change from their usual stuff. Because me listening to that completely fresh, I'm like, these guys seriously know what they're doing with this rock and roll vibe. You know, there's that kind of, there's just that confidence in that music that they've both written and produced. So it's quite interesting that they've had that background that you're more familiar with in the acoustic world. So yeah, that's pretty interesting.
I mean, I was surprised when I heard they were bringing out a new song, because they have a Jason Mraz cover of I Won't Give Up on YouTube that they did on the X Factor that has God knows how many millions of views. And everything's calm, and it's obviously their Jason Mraz cover, and all their music is like that. So I loved hearing this tune.
I'll need to check that out, because that's a tune and a half as well. So
I mean, and they cover it well.
Yeah, so I will actually check that out, because it'll be interesting to see that difference. Because I love that. I love when artists do these kind of U-turns, not necessarily U-turns, or they change in some way or evolve in some way. And they've obviously wanted to go for this rock and roll vibe on this. And yeah, that'll be interesting. I'll check that out, man.
Yeah, you should. And as last week, we want to offer some kind of feedback that us as the songwriters and producers would have maybe just gone a different direction. So the only thing that I would have liked to see more is just more snap of the snare. As a big rock and roll fan and a big hair metal fan and every kind of rock and metal vibe, I love the crack of the snare. And although it's there in this track and the producer's done a really good job, just my personal taste, I would have just added a little bit more crack to the snare. And if you didn't want to sample it, you could also copy and paste the original snare track and just EQ it, multi-band compress it in certain places just to bring that real like of the snare through. Yeah. And that's the only thing. It's just a great track, really well recorded, loved it, and I've been listening to it since I released it. It's on my playlist.
You could even do a kind of bit with a transient shaper, where you just bring that kind of transient really in, so you get that more punch. I'm the same. So for me, the only critique that I would say is the drums in general, I think, could have been a bit louder. They were a massive part of that song, and they were really driving that incredible rhythm and rock and roll vibe. So I was actually just kind of wanting to tease a wee bit more volume out them, to be honest. And if you had that extra volume, I think maybe your extra punch and your weight, potentially in the snare as well, to your point, would have maybe came through. So I'm thinking 3 dB, something like that. It's quite an aggressive jump there. But what it's doing for me is, because it's just that tad quieter for me, it's emphasising a lot the guitar weight though. And if that's the vibe they're going for, then that completely makes sense to me, because I'm listening to those electric guitars thinking, oh, whoa, they're massive, they're crunchy, they're, you know, so I'm getting that vibe. So if it was a deliberate choice, you know what, we're going to back off the drums just ever so slightly to emphasise more that this song is about that guitar riff, that really kind of crunch and rock and roll guitar riff. That makes complete sense to me. But I guess from a personal perspective, yeah, I just want a bit more of the drums.
Yeah, man. It's a great song. Really, really, really love this song. This is right up my alley. And yeah, exactly.
More of that, please, listeners. More of that.
Exactly. Just another great submission that we've got through this week. And next up, we've got a lovely lady from the States called Stephanie Ryann, who's worked with us before. She's awesome. And I'll let her introduce this song to you. This is Stephanie Ryann.
Hey guys, it's Stephanie Ryann, and you are listening to Summer Fling Acoustic.
Well, the summer fling felt like the real thing, but he was headed back to Georgia in the fall. I had to let him go. Time's up, this I know. That's what you get in the summer. That's what you get in the summer fling. Summer fling. I wonder if he ever.
Yeah. I just love. Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo. I love the guitar. I know it's like very clearly an acoustic song, and as Stephanie said, it's Summer Fling Acoustic. There's a whole new real version, but I love the way the guitars sit in this track, and it immediately like just makes you want to bop your head. And I especially like Stephanie's voice. She's got a lovely voice to listen to. It's just expressed in a song like this. The guitars are so nice and bright. They've done a really nice job adding the kind of the warmth to the high end of the guitar without losing too much of that kind of low end stuff. I know it sounds to me in the mix like they've tried very intentionally to get rid of as much low end as they can and just bring the brightness out. and especially to complement Stephanie's voice, which they've done lovely. And I just enjoyed the songwriting on this song. From a songwriting point of view, it flows nicely. It has everything you want. It has a really cool acoustic-y country lead line. It's just a fun, summery country song that makes me want to open a beer and just chill out.
Sit in a haystack.
You say, yeah, you're not used to that, are you? Too much country music over in the UK.
This is all very new to me. I mean, I am a massive fan of Dan and Shay.
They're great.
I've seen them live in Glasgow in like a bar, whereas over in the States they'd be playing in a stadium, wouldn't they? So yeah, it's just like you can get away with that in the UK because it's not as big. But I'm being the kind of music geek I am certainly a big fan of certain country artists. And no, I loved the chilled out bops on this. It's very distinctive country western vibe straight away. I love the fact that they mix some background noise into the track. Did you
I like
hear
that too, yeah.
Which is quite cool again, like makes me feel like I'm outside again on the haystack with a beer. Quite like that vibe. Or like you're, in a festival performance, it's like an acoustic performance in a wee tent somewhere and you've got that kind of atmosphere around you.
Yeah, like a festival kind of vibe.
Yeah, I like that. And lyrically, it's very kind of classic country as well, which is good for the genre. And the guitars, I want to absolutely pinpoint, are really clean, like really bright, clean, and that crystal presence. That is probably one of my main takeaways from listening. I was like, oh, those guitars are really well mixed, but probably not just mixed well, recorded well, because it's like what we've spoken about on previous episodes. The sound quality going into that mic has obviously been really good from the get-go.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that's some of my kind of thoughts there. Where I think for me it could have been improved is probably around the vocals on this track. I don't think they were necessarily polished enough. And what I mean by that is, I mean that for the lead and the backing vocals. I just think they could have had a bit more of that kind of, that shine element. So a bit more vocal processing to just bring about that kind of vocal air on her voice, because she's got a lovely voice. It's just, I think when you listen and you reference that mix against some mixes like Kelsey Ballerini, for example, big star, fantastic songs, and she's got this vocal quality in her mixes that is, just really present, bright, but like really kind of earthy country style kind of vocal. I think had that been closer to that kind of vibe, would have even made it 100 times better, and it would have taken that to the next level for me. So for me, what I would work on for the next track is trying to get more of that kind of country, commercial sounding vocal. But yeah, overall great track.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I get that completely, and I'm coming from a slightly different angle this time as I normally would. I'm coming in as more of, if I was to join the session, the songwriting session, what would I've added to it? And straight away, that chorus for me, I'd have added some high frequency guitar syncopation, like a da 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 da, just in the background there, really high up in the neck. Just for me, that's just my personal taste. I love hearing that in the background of things. And again, I spoke about it last week. It kind of adds that funky element.
Yeah.
When you add a little bit of syncopation there with a high guitar, and that could have been achieved with acoustic or electric on a clean setting. And yeah, just what Andy said with the vocals, Stephanie comes through really well, and I really enjoy listening to her voice. The lyrics are great country song. I'd have just liked the background vocals just to be a little bit tighter with the lead vocal. And you can achieve that with a plugin like Vocaline. Takes a couple of seconds to do. But again, that's just being really nitpicky, I just want to add that kind of from both angles, what I would have done just a little bit differently myself. But I love this song. Again, it went straight into my Spotify country playlist, and it will stay there.
Good,
so thanks so much for the submission, Stephanie. We're a really big fan over here of you, as you know. So thanks again for sending that song in. I really enjoyed that one. Not just the acoustic version, the full band version is equally as great. And I will leave links and everything so you can check that out as well.
I'll need to check that out. Yeah,
it's
definitely.
awesome. It's awesome.
Class.
And so next up, we've got a band called Artax. Is that correct, Andy? They're from your neck of the woods, so maybe I'll let you say how they say it in a Scottish accent.
I better get it right now because the pressure's on. Yeah, I believe they're called Artax, and this is the single Rise from their album Rise. But I'll let Katie, I think we've got here, who's one of the duo, introduce the track now.
Hey guys, this is Katie from duo Artax, and this is our song Rise from our album Rise. We hope you like it. Thank you.
Oh, I love that guitar, man. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. Straight away, I'm
class.
hooked with music like that. I want to be the drummer for this band. Just the dun, 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 dun. It's like the classic headbanger drum beat, and it's brilliant. I really enjoy it. The kick is so tight, and especially in a tune like this, you want that kick to be driving those drums.
Yeah.
And they've brought the beat of the kick, the beat of hitting the skin, of the drum, through really well. And the snare just adds that headbanging quality. Like, they could have quite easily turned those drums up and in tempo, and maybe not gone like that kind of halftime almost feel. They could have easily done some kind of 2/4 rhythm.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love what they've done here. And I also love that they've kept the synths nice and wide from the pre-chorus and the pause into the chorus, and they've kept those synths there, albeit they've turned down a lot in the chorus, but they're there.
Mm-hmm.
And really strong vocal performance again. The melody's awesome. Like, even as like two guys, we're sat here like, just trying to sing along. I really enjoyed it, man. Like, another great up-and-coming Scottish duo / band.
They're representing me well here. I'm very thankful that we've got such class. I mean, there is class music coming from Scotland these days, and I loved this track. I love the power in these vocals, especially see that bit at the end when it's like, and I will rise. Oh, like, again, it's like what we spoke about last week with the song. When you create that space, it just emphasizes that rhythm even more, and it like hits that much harder. And they've done that in this track, where they've created those gaps to emphasize the dynamics really well. And the vocal is so passionate. Like, she's just pouring her vocals out of her, and it's like got this really kind of reverby space on it, but it still sounds massive in the mix, which is absolutely class. It's kind of taken me back to my post-hardcore emo days.
Me too.
Because I used to listen to stuff like this all the time when I was going through like the age of, 16, 17, that kind of thing, with the particular sounds that you're getting from those drums, that kind of drum beat, exactly like you said. And I've put down here, it really reminded me of a band called A Skylit Drive. Do you know?
Yeah, big time. Oh,
so
big time.
It's quite like that vibe, because if I remember rightly, they had that kind of electronic stuff within their music as well.
Albeit their singer was a guy who sounded like a girl. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the main difference, is obviously this is Katie's vocal, and she's already up there naturally. But yeah, that was like a guy who just had this kind of, I think it was like a countertenor vocal, just a ridiculously high vocal.
Yeah.
But
it's a good comparison, yeah.
Absolutely. What a banger of a track.
Really was.
In terms of critique, it's been hard for me in this one. I think for me, which is interesting because you said you like the kind of width of the synths. I've actually kind of written down, for me the mix could have been a slight bit wider, with deliberate placement of a couple of things hard panned on the left and right. Not saying that there was nothing out there. I just think some more presence or some more weight in the each end of the mix would have been ideal. A tad more levels in the vocals, but when I say tad, I mean a tad. I'm not by any means saying that the vocals are being lost. I just think because Katie's doing such an incredibly passionate, performance, I just wanted a slight bit more of that to come through and shine through. But yeah, those kind of things are minimal, absolute banging track, and I loved it. Really good.
Yeah, I said the same. I wrote down a similar thing, just a little bit wider in the overall mix.
Yeah.
Maybe double up on the guitars, throw them out wide for the chorus anyway. And just, I would have liked the guitar just to be brought forward a little bit in the chorus. Just before as we said earlier, the da, 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 like the actual, like the guitar, the chorus and the guitar and the chorus, sorry.
Yeah,
my words. Just again, like Andy just said, so slightly, not very, very, very minimal difference. Just bring it up a bit, and then just for me, I would have just slapped a stereo widening plug in on the guitar bus and just had to play with it. If not the guitar bus, the mix bus, and just seeing what to do with it.
Because I was thinking like I would have maybe popped it on the instrument bus and just just slightly winding it until you just feel it come a bit more round in the stereo field. I think that's all it would have needed, Tom, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I love this kind of music. Like I mean, it kind of the drums reminded me a little bit of a band called Tesseract. They're not as crazy timing. I don't know if you've heard of Tesseract, Andy, but they're some of the most talented musicians I've ever seen. They play in so many funky tempos, but the drums are always driving it there with that kind of halftime feel almost.
Yeah.
But then it changes out of nowhere into like a new rhythm. But everything flows well. And I'm like, I just wish I could write a song like that, where everything flows nicely but changes so much. And you kind of get that with that little change just kind of keeps me as the listener like, oh, what's happening there? Yeah. I really enjoyed it, and I think you guys smashed
syncopation. Yeah.
But yeah, again, thank you so much for those submissions, because every single track,
smashing it.
I've honestly added it to my own playlists in Spotify. Like, I loved every single one of them. Genuinely.
And we've added it to our playlist.
And our playlist, which we have now. We've made a little playlist of all the songs we're going to feature on the podcast that we'll leave links in the description if you want to check it out. Highly recommend it, because the full songs is just awesome.
Yeah.